I had the opportunity to catch Survival of the Film Freaks at its world premiere at Horrorhound in August 2018. So, what's it all about? Let's find out. Alright, so this is a spoiler-filled review. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out and come on back. Alright, you're here, you've seen it. You may be saying to yourself, hey, Dante, it's not really a horror movie. No, it's not. It's a documentary, but it's all about all the cult films and all the genres, including horror. Above and beyond that, it's a film that asks some very important questions, and they do directly affect horror fans. So, let's dive in. We start off with likes and, excuse me, kind of overcoming something here. There's a lot to like. The filmmakers did this on an absolute shoestring budget. I spoke to them at length. You know, the budget you wouldn't even believe, and it was all spent on travel, they said. Most of the interviews that you saw, if not all of them, were actually done free. They really reached out, they really got hooked up. I mean, they had Ted Raimi on there, for Christ's sakes. But structure-wise, I thought they did a really great job. They covered the decades starting with the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Not that there's, you know, much past the 80s. We won't get into that. About cult films and various genres. Not what are cult films and everything else, but kind of the different times and what they reflected. But then, where the real crux of the issue comes in, where they really started to shine, was they decided to approach the method of archival and consumption of these cult films from decade to decade, because by the very nature of cult films, they are not, generally speaking, large studio productions with thousands of 35 millimeter prints or digital copies backed up in the cloud or whatever to be preserved for all time, you know, high-end Blu-ray restorations and director's commentaries, blah, 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 blah. The more cultish you go, the harder it is to find. And so you start out with your VHS and you go to Laserdisc. Do you have a soft spot in my heart for Laserdisc? Who doesn't? DVD, Blu-ray, and then streaming today. And this is where I really thought they did a tremendous job. They chronicled the different medium. Then when they got to streaming, see, there's horror in there. Streaming, they got to what is sort of the real thrust of the documentary and the one that is the important question. And it's one that a lot of people grapple with. And it's one that is polarizing. I hope and expect to see some comments in this section, both for and against, and screaming and yelling. And it's as simply this, that in today's modern age, there is, if you have the know-how, the opportunity to download illegally, for free, cult movies. Okay? Onto a file on your hard drive. The question presented is that many of these, especially the more cultish, there is no other method of acquiring or viewing them. VHS tape, long destroyed or not even playable anymore. Good luck finding a, I guess you could find a VHS player on eBay or something, but even then, from what I understand, you know, the shelf life of VHS is not very long. Many of these were never released on DVD because of the cost, never released on Laserdisc. Laserdisc is very similar to VHS. Good luck finding a player these days. Blu-ray, never released, and they're not streaming anywhere. So, you can't say you're justified in downloading them illegally. The question becomes, what can we do to counter that? And they provide some answers. For example, some streaming services, Shudder, you know, even in some regards, Hulu and Netflix, have reached a low enough price point where the average viewer will say, you know what, I could pay $5 a month for Shudder and watch these cult movies that I enjoy, Shudder obviously being specific to horror, or I can try to educate and find out and learn about, torrenting and VPNing and all that other stuff. Most people are lazy. That's just a simple psychological fact of life. And so most people will go the route of the streaming, and that keeps it legal and fair and provides some kind of remuneration for, well, at this point, rights holders. So you can't even say that the director or creators are going to get the money any longer. So it poses that very, fascinating and interesting question. It doesn't really provide an answer one way or the other, but just leaves it open, which is what I really, truly love about it. Okay, on the dislike side, I don't know, that it ended. I mean, seriously, that was it. It was absolutely wonderful, top to bottom. I've heard little grumblings here and there that some people thought it dragged on. It didn't drag on at all. In fact, it could have gone on and on and on. They could have brought in a lot more topics and a lot more information. It was just top to bottom. Absolutely amazing. It is Pinhead time. I don't think there's going to be any doubts or question on this one. This is a film that you absolutely must see if you're any kind of a film fan at all. Film fan at all. Horror or otherwise, this is definitely a 5 Pinhead movie. Well, I am obviously a film freak. I survived. What about you? Please let me know in the comment section below. Even if you haven't seen the movie, maybe you leave a little comment regarding what you feel about the concept of illegally downloading versus not being able to see it any other way. Let me know.